All right, today we'll be covering some headlining news, which is the consumer reports that came out about protein powders having high levels of lead. As always, Zane Spruce, fitness and nutrition expert Neal Spruce, who has had 40 plus years in the supplement industry as well, and is one of the biggest suppliers in pro and collegiate sports. So he knows all about this stuff, and we're going to run it past him and see what he's got to say about it. So the whole world's up in a frenzy about this, it seems. Well, in our orbit, in the fitness industry, everyone seems to be up in arms about this report that's come out, and maybe a little worried if they're unaware about, consuming lead in their protein shakes. So for everyday users, should they actually be worried, or is this being blown out of proportion, the lead in protein shakes?
Well, first of all, in our orbit, no one even responds to it because they realize that whatever we do, because of third-party certifications, everything else we do, everything's cool. So forget that. I think for the general population, because it was a media frenzy, they just put it all out there. Oh, you could be the most popular sort of supplement in the world, protein shakes and all these things. They have high toxic levels of lead. What do you mean? What do you mean by toxic levels of lead in these protein powders? So that's where it was one of those media frenzies over. And again, Consumer Reports did these testing on these proteins. And what they were testing for was lead, which is in everything you eat. And by the way, you get more lead breathing in an office building in 5 hours than you would ever get from a serving in a protein shake, just so you know, even a lousy protein shake. So the context is just completely taken out. You can find lead in anything. And so what they did is they put a number out there. They exceeded this number. Well, who makes that number God? What made that the rule? Okay? And we'll get into that as you go. So the bottom line is Consumer Reports, in my eyes, which I always love watchdogs. I love people that check things and try to make everything right, but they just fell off their white horse. They completely created a media frenzy to keep their brand alive. So it was really done poorly. I get it. They just didn't put it in context.
Right. We do some fact checking around here too, so we can understand. But yeah, it's important not to blow things out of proportion, I would say. But this is something to take into consideration. That's I guess why there is a Prop 65, which we'll get into. But if something tests positive for trace amounts of lead, does that automatically make it harmful?
There's nothing that doesn't test. We can do any kind of testing. If you want to find a prehistoric human that pissed in the soil 100,000 years ago, we could find that molecule nowadays. So it's like nothing makes any sense in the way they kind of, when you lay this whole thing out. Yes, you can detect anything you want. Detection doesn't mean danger. That's natural. Lead is part of the earth. How do you wipe lead out of the earth? How much do you want? How much can a human metabolize without having any problems? That's a whole different situation, okay? And so that's what the FDA does. That's what the federal government does. That's what the World Health Organization does. That's what all the global standards have a number that is set, that a serving of food or a serving, not necessarily protein falls into foods, of course, a serving should not exceed this number. And that number, the lowest of all those, the most conservative number out there, the lowest of all of them is 5 micrograms, okay, in a serving. The number that Consumer Reports used was 0.5. That's 10 times lower.
Right. And where is that 0.5 come from?
It comes from California. Now, but here's the part that Consumer Reports, well, first of all, they didn't even tell anybody that. They just said, oh, it's above there. It's dangerously toxic. Come on. I just want to just wring these guys' necks for that. But here's where it comes. It comes from California. California passed a law back in the 80s, early 90s, whatever it was, They just said that if you have more than 0.5 micrograms, which like the whole world just went, who made that number up? Seriously, I'm not bullshitting. The whole world just looks around and goes, who made that number up? So obviously industry, politics, just all the freaking, all the payola, all that somehow, it gets that out there. So now it's on, you walk into a coffee shop, it's already written down the bottom. You've written anywhere else because everything, all the food you eat's got way more than that. One serving of spinach has got more than that. Okay, don't eat any more spinach.
All the furniture you buy has pretty much got it too,
That number is unacceptable. Now, most numbers, the number we pick is 5 micrograms, which is still lower than most, like the FDA is like 12 micrograms, and the World Health Organization is around that as well. All global standards. And by the way, I want to remind everybody that the people in these other countries that have higher standards, when I say higher, they have higher of acceptable lead, they live longer than us. So don't
right. I mean, every U.S. citizen that's health conscious praises other countries on their practices.
Yeah,
so it's like,
exactly. So
why are you going up in arms about this now?
Well, and especially and then corner out just to California.
Yeah.
Does that mean everybody else sucks?
Well, I mean, it's one thing to get up in arms because you just don't know any better. But if you know any better, then it's like there's no reason to even panic because you live in the United States and. We're now subjecting ourselves to a lower protocol than the places that you put on a pedestal when it comes to their health protocols.
100%. 100%, all the way around. Yeah, so Consumer Reports, really, shame on them. Listen, I was always a fan because I love watchdogs because that's how I make a living. I make a living on doing the right things, everything else. And it's just like, they really, they need to retract it and say, okay, you know what? No, this is true. This is all true, the numbers that we found, because I believe their testing's okay, even though I would argue NSF's is probably better and some of the other ones there. But it's okay. They found it. And without a doubt, vegan proteins, any vegetarian protein is going to have more metals in it than anything else because that's part of the soil. It's really hard to clean. You got to really wipe things out. Now, we're fortunate because we do ultrafiltration on everything. And also, the majority of the proteins we sell are from whey, which is automatically way lower. They don't even they go even below that number. But it's like the fear mongering. That is just unacceptable. They should come out tomorrow after watching us, even though they probably already heard this from the industry and everything else, everybody out there. Why did you do that? Why didn't you put it in context? Why didn't you put it in context and say, by the way, what we found, and I love 120% more lead than we found 15 years ago when we did it. Okay, so if you found 0.2, now it's 0.24. I mean, it's insignificant. And let's say that's true. Who cares? That's a minor number. But people don't go, 120%? I think it's like a crazy number. It's nothing. It's a minuscule number increase. And they would just, this sort of fear-mongering, because guess what? They never would have made the news if they didn't say that. They had to go, well, guess what? All the proteins still fall below global standards. They fall below FDA standards, and they fall below NSF standards, which are the gold standards. They fall below that, but they're higher than Prop 65 allowed, which really doesn't mean anything because Prop 65 is really just a notice. If you have it higher than 0.5, which is ridiculous, then you got to put a notice there to say, hey, there's lead in this product. It's not telling you it's toxic.
Yeah.
So anyway, you see what I mean? So they just literally were trying to get on the news.
Right,
Shame on them.
Yeah, context.
Shame on them.
Context doesn't sell. So.
That's right.
You touched on the plant proteins, which we should probably dive into. Why do plant proteins seem to be hit harder in these in this area of lead?
Yeah, because all of it comes from the ground, right? I mean, it's like when a cow eats the grass, right? They metabolize it, so most of the lead's gone by the time we extract it from the cow. So beef proteins and whey proteins from dairy are always going to be way less than a plant protein because the plant is going straight from the ground into your container.
Yeah.
But they still have to clean it. And you can clean it. You can do it. It's a lot of work and it'd be cost prohibitive to get it down to a tiny below 0.5. And by the way, your chocolates, by the way, for everybody, your chocolates are always going to have a little bit more lead because the cocoa bean, that's where chocolate comes from.
The cocoa bean?
No, it's not cocoa. It's cacao. Cacao. Yeah, yeah. That's different than cocoa. Cacao is less processed, and that's basically where chocolate flavoring comes from. And you're going to get, you can't clean all it out. If you clean it all out, there's no protein left. I mean, there's all kinds of issues. No nutrients left at all. So there's a trade-off there. And then the number, the World Health Organization number, the NSF number, the USP, by the way, United States Pharmacopoeia number, is the right one that you want to stick with, which is, again, 5 micrograms, not 0.5, which is a joke. So shame on you again, Consumer Reports, for not putting that in
so
perspective.
Moving forward, for consumers here, what should a consumer look for in a label or on a website to know if a brand takes testing seriously?
Yeah. Almost what I just mentioned. I mean, every one of it's mandatory and has been since day one for us, third-party testing, and then NSF certified for sport. They check for heavy metals, and they pass all federal and global standards, or your product won't pass. So look for NSF certified, look for Eurofins, or USP, United States Pharmacopoeia. Those are 3 that we all know that for sure. And by the way, any other third-party testing, as long as you vet them, a lot of guys make shit up. I'm a third-party tester. Well, okay, let me see the data. But NSF, they put a whole site. Like if you go there, you'll see our products all over it. They're the ones that all clear everything.
Right. What about Inform too? Right.
Inform, yeah, absolutely. They're a good company.
It's hard not to let this creep in the back of your mind though when you see this, just because now you're whether it's high or low, you're willingly exposing yourself to lead, which they're saying is there's no safe amount of consumption. So if someone's drinking shakes daily for months or indefinitely, what's your advice for them?
Continue drinking them because they have less lead than other foods. Less lead than other foods. So, for instance, again, I'm not telling you to change them out, but if you look at the rule is you're supposed to have 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. Well, that would put you about 20 times over the lead limit daily. Okay, a protein shake has less lead than many different types of foods that you're going to have. So there's no reason in the world you would change that. It just falls into it. Basically, if you're going to follow that, if you were listening to, well, I can't have that because it's got too much lead according to this little thing we heard on consumers, then you can't have any fruits and vegetables. A cup of spinach has far more than 1 serving of protein. And what's more important at the end of the day is the amount of protein you get for longevity and to maintain your muscle, balance, all those things. That 1 gram per pound of lean body mass of protein you've got to get. And adding a protein shake daily to make sure you get it is a home run. You'll get less lead than trying to do something else.
You just said your daily protein intake. It's funny because I kind of mentioned something in this about...
I was waiting for you to ask me that question.
The craze about you actually don't need as much protein.
Yeah. You know what those are? Those are pencil neck scientists that don't get it. These are guys that are locked in. We're all waiting for those guys to die off. I'm serious. Let's say it with me. We are, because they're stuck in that world. I went to school and I heard you only need the RDA for protein. Everything's okay. Oh, are you kidding me? All the latest research, if you follow the latest research daily, the older you get, the more protein you need. The more active you are, the more protein you need. The number, and I'm conservative. When you talk to scientists way smarter than me, they want you to even have more. I'm 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. They'll say 1 gram per pound. They'll even say a little higher than that when you're dieting, of course. I'm good. 1 gram per pound. No one gets that from food alone. Unless you're a fat, you know what, okay? I mean, you're in a whole nother world then. That's why they say, well, people get plenty of protein. Yeah, they do because they're eating too many calories and they're eating all kinds of, and the protein comes with it. But, that's not lean people that want to stay active. Protein has a lot more than just building muscle. It's satiety, keeping you full so you can lose weight. We already know that. Those guys should be punished and should never be interviewed again. Any scientist says the average person is getting way too much, getting more protein than they need, they don't need a protein shake, is full of shit. And I'll tell you why. One, to get 1 gram per pound from the grocery store, you need 2 things. You need a part-time job, which is ridiculous. This is complete protein. We're not talking about shitty protein. And 2, you need a full-time cook because you got to do meal prep every day to get your meals, to get the 1 gram per pound of lean body mass of protein. So tell any of those scientists to call me.
All right.
And I will completely reverse their process because I got all the facts in the world on that one. That's an easy one, right? The older you get, the more protein you need.
Yeah, who would have thought big protein would be on the same echelon as big pharma? So, I mean, with all of this being out there, do you think the supplement industry needs stricter rules, or is it more about holding companies accountable voluntarily?
Well, let's face it, you're going to have bad actors everywhere. We got bad actors in the medical profession, all the doctors that went to jail for opioids prescriptions and all the other kind of stuff. So we got bad actors everywhere, so we know that. You're going to get bad actors there where they're just going to make an inexpensive protein, maybe not follow what we call good manufacturing practice, where you clean all the metals out down to that limit like we talked about. You're always going to have a couple of those. But for the most part, when you really look at the supplement industry, you don't see a whole bunch of that. You do see violations on, like I said, good manufacturing practices, not just heavy metals, but there's some other things that they do that they're trying to do there. So yes, I'm a fan of the strictest regulation possible. I am a fan for that. I mean, because we follow those rules. We regulate the industry ourselves in our orbit of everything that we do. So I have third-party checking on everything that gets done. I would love everybody to do that. It would be great, So, tighter regulations would always be good. Your good players, though, they follow the rules. The good players follow the rules.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of these ones that popped up on this report, right, were tested by NSF certified.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, that's a good one. I'm glad you brought that up. And by the way, that just validates everything I just said, right? NSF uses global standards. They don't use California standards that are right. Ridiculous. So and no one else does. They use global standards, and so does United States Pharmacopoeia. They use global standards, so that's why they passed. They passed because they were below this ridiculous 0.5, or no, they were above that 0.5, but below 5.
Well, I think it's important to mention that NSF is considered the gold standard
for sure
for testing.
Yeah,
so.
I'm glad you brought that up because absolutely, if you see that on it, you're golden. They protecting you. Yeah, all that.
Because I mean, if I look here, right, I'm looking at it. There's one that is it's a plant protein, so plant proteins just got absolutely
they're always going to be
wrecked on this report. But I mean, they're saying recommended limited to once a week. You can only have
NSF said that?
No. This consumer report is saying that these 2 that are plant proteins that are NSF certified, they only recommend you can have 1.25 servings per week.
Okay. Well, if they put that on the label.
No, that's not on their label. That's on the consumer report. That's what they're saying.
Oh, at the 0.5. At the 0.5.
Yeah,
that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, I got that. Yeah. So, that's crazy. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, listen, never, Consumer Reports has really fallen off the white horse, like I said. Trust NSF way more than Consumer Reports. Yeah. NSF's the real deal.
How can a company earn a consumer's trust in times like these?
Well, here's an example. As you know, I mean, we're huge around the world. All the biggest brands use us, the teams and everything else. We have about 5 million users, in our orbit. You know how many people reacted to that we got? Because they have to write into us all the time. We get, ask the experts.
We got a bunch of inquiries.
You know how many we got?
How many?
3. They said, we just saw the Consumer Reports. You know why? Because the other 4.99999 million people, they trust us. They already know we're certified. We're done. You're not going to see that. So we just answer them. If you see our certification on the NSF certification on there or the Eurofins certification, it's all done. You are covered. But we also did say it was fear-mongering by Consumer Reports. They had to make the media. That's how they get paid. Maybe they were running out of funding. They needed money. So they probably just went out there and wrote up, picked a number, out of the air, I'll pick California number. Anything higher than that, then they're killing people with lead. I mean, that's what sells.
Well, they had to pick that number to
Be able to say that.
to come out with a
They
report.
would have found probably 5 companies otherwise,
Yeah.
rather than 70% of the people we tested.
Right.
You know, and most of them are obviously vegetable proteins. You know, so.
And so, just for people to kind of like sift through companies, what separates an ethical supplement company from just one selling hype?
No, it is the research and the documentation that's available to the consumer. We used to do this all the time. I mean, for years we did that. We would tell when our trainers go through their certification, we go, well, somebody said, I take this product and they say that it's clinically, I guess send the research, send it to me. Send us the research, send us the documentation where all of our practitioners have the practitioner dietary supplement reference guide that has all the thousands and thousands of peer review research that supports every ingredient and dosage that's in any product. That's been going on now. Well, I've been doing it for 40 years. With I've had a course now over 20. So you got, and it's just an evolution. You have something of trust because they trust everything we say because we validated it, and no one's been able to break that validation. No one's been able to break through there. So it is something that you trust, and people trust their brands. There's some other really good brands out there that are mass market, but we're not mass market. We're a professional brand. We're a practitioner product. So, it's a whole different world. You don't sell in the mass market. Mass market, they sell up based on price, and they have to do a lot of marketing, and that's hyperbole. So you really can't, that's how they sell. I'm not saying there's some bad products out there. There's some good products out there. But the good ones cost you way more than it would cost for our products that are, certainly far and away the best of the professional environment wouldn't be using them. So anyway, that's it. It really is just your reputation, your heritage, and if you look at the businesses, the multi-billion-dollar businesses we support, whether NFL teams or whether they're like UFCs or, everything else, it pretty much tells you if they sign up, then, you probably can trust that one. That we've been vetted. But I still think we should give a couple of numbers out here to the people. You can put this in at the end. Okay, you ready? So natural spinach contains 5.2 micrograms of lead in a serving. Natural spinach, one serving. That's 10 times the level that Consumer Report says you can have. You're screwed. If you want to follow 3 to 5 servings of vegetables today, you will end up somewhere about 20 times higher in lead. So what I'm trying to say, and again, what we're trying to say, put it in perspective. There's less in a protein shake or protein powder, and a good one, not a bad one.
Right.
There's less, if it's NSF certified, than there is in a serving of vegetables. So there's nothing wrong with adding that to your diet when you can't get your 1 gram per pound of lean body mass, because you have to get that. And you're going to need that there. And guess what? You can throw vegetables and fruit in there and make a smoothie for the stuff you don't eat. There's so much value in having a protein shake. So and I just really want to say something really bad about these people that said, well, people don't need to take a protein shake. Shut up. That's the only way you're going to get there. Again, I'm not saying every day. Just those days you don't get it. You really need to get there, and you need to do that your whole life if you want to stay active and independent your whole life. You need that amount of protein, and it's going to be very difficult with food. And not only that, if you did it with food, you're going to get more lead. So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's true.
There you go.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Pick your battles.
Pick your battles.
Decide how you want to do it.
Exactly.
This will probably, a quality protein shake will probably expose you to less lead and economically friendly alternative to always trying to make
and meeting your
eat
nutrient needs,
animal proteins and whatnot.
Yeah.
So with that, I think that covers it. I hope this clears the air.
Yeah.
I hope you get some peace of mind from this one, and don't fear your protein shake if you love it and it's part of your daily routine.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. You have nothing to worry about. But if you do worry about it now, God bless you. Figure it out yourself then.
And by the way, on that note, meal replacements integrated into your diets are the number one weight control solution on the planet. Forget about your weight loss drugs. That's a whole nother world because you lose muscle. But with meal replacements, that's a protein shake. And that's what they do for the number one solution for weight control on the planet, is integrating that into your regular diet. Okay, so
Hey, I'm a daily consumer of them, and I take plant protein. So, you know.
Yeah,
like,
there you go. There you go.
I'm allergic to dairy. So, with that, I think that clears it all up. We'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget, take your multivitamin. We'll see you then. Bye.
Boom.